Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is September of 2021, and today we're going to start up with morale. Morale was a major issue back during the Great World War II. Every side wanted to keep up their side's morale, because when you're fighting the greatest conflict in human history, you needed to make sure your population wasn't ready to give up, because they were constantly worried about getting their face blown off by some asshole. So the fact is, morale is very important in life. You need to keep up your morale, even if the world is going completely insane. When you watch the news and you see that there's an invasion at the southern border, when you watch the news and you see laws being flouted, when you see police being defunded, when you see insane politicians basically acting so horrible that it beggars belief and then getting away with it, you can start kind of giving up on life. You can start thinking about giving up on the future. Don't let these people win. Throughout history, there's always going to be absolutely horrible cretins that are going to try to get your morale down so that they can win. Every day that you get up, you need to say, today will be a good day. Even if it's not, to say today will be a good day. And we're going to make the day as good as is humanly possible. Do not give in to despair. Do not give in to feelings of hopelessness. You make the future that you want to live in. In life, you have to fight against all these bad things. You have to fight against yourself sometimes. You've got all this bad crap, but you have to say, I'm going to make my life the best life I can live. You have to fight to be happy. You have to fight for happily ever after. And so morale, instead of looking at all the bad shit, make sure you know what bad shit's going on so you don't get caught in it. But also look at what good is going on. Try to make your life as good as possible. You know, fall in love, get married, live happily ever after. You still have to live your life even if the world is going insane. Because at the end of the day, all you have is your life to live. You know, I lived a life for many years where I just was constantly depressed. You know, it's like nothing can ever be good. But once I realized that my life is what I made of it, I started really focusing on making myself happy and then making everyone else happy around me. You know, I started, going out and doing things. For many years, I was definitely a shut-in. And these days, I like to go out and live life. Although people's heart problems are somewhat annoying, I was going to go to a Judas Priest concert, and the guitarist for Judas Priest had heart problems. Play anyway! You will play until you die! But anyway, it kind of sucks, but whatever. But you get the idea, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta live life. You gotta get out there and breathe in the fresh air, assuming you live someplace that isn't constantly filled with pollution. The fact is, though, for me, I was able to go from horribly depressed kind of, misery guts to a fairly happy kind of guy just by changing my perspective. Instead of just looking at the negative in every single thing, I started looking at the positive, And then I just started looking at things more positively. And it really kind of starts with just language. Language is a very important thing. Words do indeed have meaning. If you say today's going to be a bad day, well, then it might very well be, even if it wasn't that bad to begin with. These days, I kind of just say well, that's going to be difficult, or today's a day. And you know what? Sometimes today being a bad day, it might start kind of bad, but if you have a positive attitude, it might end really good. The other thing is, you never know what can come at you in life. You can either live in fear of this, or you can live in hope of this. Because bad things can happen, and good things can happen. The glass can be half full or half empty. I actually fill it up to the halfway point anyway, so it is as full as I want it to be. But anyway, that trite old thing aside, the fact is, good things can happen and bad things can happen. Just keep your mind open and don't just sit around being depressed, because it takes just as much energy to be depressed as it does to be happy. And at the end of the day, being depressed all the time doesn't actually make anything better. That's the thing I want to point out. Being a misery guts doesn't actually make you feel any better. And when bad shit happens, not only does that not actually make you any more prepared for it, but it also makes it worse, and you're less able to figure out what you got to do to make things good again. So, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, bad shit's happening all around the world. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon. But if all you do is live in despair and misery, you might actually miss some good things that are actually happening. You might actually not be able to go out and make your life better, despite all that crap. In short, just try to be happy, because being sad doesn't actually make things any better. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, what do we got for videos? Why, we have The Outer Worlds, which is going to be released in hopefully a couple of days after this video goes up. It's a very long video, clocking in at about 36 minutes long, but the editing process is going on fairly fast. I'm quite fond of Outer Worlds. It's just really good story, really fun gameplay. I mean, it's surprising that such a thing actually exists in the space year 2021. Although the game was released in 2019, but whatever. It's a very, very recent game. There is another game I want to recommend trying out, and that game is called Jade Templar. It is absolutely excellent. It's another boomer shooter. You start up with two 1911s. Always a good start. It's got some interesting upgrade paths. It's got some pretty fun enemies. And it's still in early access, but I gotta say it's pretty fun. I gotta say, of the boomer shooters I've played recently, it is that close to Dusk quality. Almost as good as Dusk. So yeah, recommend that one. I'm not going to be reviewing that anytime soon just because I can't fit that in the schedule. For the rest of the year, we've got... next month is going to be Crystal Caves, and I'm going to kind of be resting that month because the last two videos of the year are going to be hard ones. I'm going to be reviewing in... I keep wanting to say Thanksgiving. November, I'm going to be reviewing Terminator Resistance. Absolutely good first-person RPG. And then at the end of the year, we're going to be taking a look at Aliens Colonial Marines. Not Aliens Colonial Marines. No, God, no, not that game. Aliens vs. Predator Classic 2000. I'm going to be doing a full review of that. I got almost all the gameplay footage. It's going to be pretty good. It's going to be pretty fun. And then, shut up, foe. Nobody likes you. And then... for 2022, I've got some plans for that year. I'm going to try this, and I don't know how. All these things are subject to change due to, who knows what's going to happen in a year, but I've got a desire, and I'm going to be shooting for this. The Year of the RPG. I really want to review Fallout New Vegas. I've already got some footage for that. Mass Effect, already got footage for that. Dragon Age 1, footage for that. And then... Jade Empire, KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, and last, but certainly not least, Witcher 1. Now, I'm not sure if I can do all that within 1 year, but I do want to review those in 2022 if I can. I might also try to do Call of Duty 3, which is not an RPG, but I kind of want to do that as well. 2022 is just going to be an interesting year in general. There's a lot of cool stuff going on behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen. That may make 2022 the best year in a long time. We'll just have to see. So yeah, I got a lot of cool plans for that. I definitely want to do those RPGs if I can, if I have the time. Because I'm also going to be doing a lot of cool stuff just in my own life in 2022 as well. So we'll have to see. I'm going to shoot for those reviews though, because I want to talk about those RPGs as those are some really damn good games in general. I really want to talk about Jade Empire, though. That game is so underrated, it's not even funny. I mean, it is this weird Chinese, kung fu master. It kind of reminds me of Kung Fu Panda in a way. This fantastical Chinese universe, but it's an RPG. It's really cool. It's one of those things that it's really sad that no one's ever really heard of it or really cares that much about it. Now, of course, reviewing something like Jade Empire or KOTOR or Witcher or something like that, it's going to take forever. The great thing about Outer Worlds is it's a pretty short RPG. It's as long as it needs to be, so you don't feel gypped on content, but it's not that long. Terminator Resistance, you don't feel gypped on content, but it's not that long. All those old BioWare games, holy shit, they are that long. And oh, so hard. Anyway, actually, it's not that hard, but... It's going to be, I'm shooting for that because I love RPGs, my favorite genre. We'll see what we can do about that. The live streams are going to continue soon enough once I have time to do them. Maybe this week. I hope I don't have to reschedule it again. Try to finish up AVP and then move on to Fear 1. I've actually got an HD texture pack for that. So, play through that. I've already reviewed that game, but I want to play it for a live stream because goddamn that game is good. Gun content, we got more of that coming up in October. Gonna put up a video on the Ruger Pc Carbine. I've already reviewed that, or I've already done a video on that gun. I'm not gonna do a formal review till I reach the 1,000 round mark, and knowing the price of 9mm, yeah, that's gonna take a little while. But I do have some content for that coming out with some upgrades that I've done to that particular carbine. I'm also going to be doing another video in either November or December on this. Oh, isn't she a beauty? This is, of course, the PTR 91. I've already done a video on this back, I think, in 2020. I've done a little bit of work to this rifle, added in a new buffer, added in a new extractor and extractor spring, and a new handguard that actually has a heat shield on it. I did put an optic on this rifle, specifically a Primary Arms ACSS Cyclops 1X prism scope, and I just know the thing's gonna fall if I don't put it like that. I don't know what it is about these rifles, but he's just only falling down on the ground. I put that prism scope on there, and it's a perfectly well-made optic. The only problem is it, well, has the problem of I can't see the reticle itself. It's so small, I can't really tell what I'm hitting or what I'm aiming at. It's like, what the hell am I looking at? So I took that thing off and just started shooting iron sights with that rifle. Iron sights on a PTR 91 are absolutely exquisite. I mean, I was getting 3 MOA groups at 100 yards. That doesn't sound good in theory, but I personally was getting 3 MOA at that distance. The mechanical accuracy of the PTR is better than that, but just me with my fairly weak eyes and just an aperture sight was getting that accuracy out there. And I'm pretty impressed by that, with cheap tool ammo, no less, which actually gave me a stuck case. I'd recommend staying away from tool ammo when it comes to 308, just because it doesn't seem to be nearly as reliable as the Wolf. I mean, all that's academic now anyway, since that ammo's been banned by a certain asshole. But with brass, you shouldn't have that problem, but if you do come across some cheap tool ammo, I'd recommend just avoiding it. That way you don't have too many problems. But anyway, I'm quite impressed by that accuracy. I'm going to try to tighten up those groups for a second shots. I am looking at putting a scope on that rifle, and I will do a video on that scope in the future when I get it. I'm probably going to pick that up in 2022. That scope, I can't remember the name of it, but it was actually recommended to me by Rainick. It's a 10x scope that's used by the US military, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. Let's see, what else we got? Books. I've not been reading that many books as of late, mainly just haven't had the time. Been reading Saturnine, which is one of the Horus Heresy books. Not that great. It's not bad enough for me to not finish, but I didn't like it that much. It's getting a little too contemporary. They like saying shit a lot. You know, when I look back on Eisenhorn, written by Dan Abnett, there was like 1 or 2 uses of the word shit. Now it just feels like some, you know, low-budget TV show. It's like, come on, people. Use, you know, real language. We're not 12-year-olds that just learned how to swear. I'm also reading White Scars by, I think, Chris Raitt. And that's pretty good. Not a lot of shit, although it is kind of funny that the Space Mongolians apparently have a rather thick accent when speaking Gothic, which is the 40K language. I'm like, really? I get it, you know, but it's like, shouldn't they be able to figure that out? But whatever. It's still a pretty good book. Quite enjoying reading about the Great Khan. I've also been reading a comic series called XO Manowar. That was a Valiant property, and for those who don't know, Valiant was also the company that relaunched Turok and was the comic line going on during the 90s and the Turok games, although Turok is much older than the Valiant comics run. But XO Manowar, I've read a little bit of the first series done by the first Valiant, but then Valiant actually was relaunched in the 2010s, I think, and there was a remake of XO Manowar, and that was really bloody good. So XO Manowar sounds kind of silly, but like the concept is really bloody cool. Basically, you got a Vistagoth named Auric, and he gets abducted by aliens, steals an alien suit of armor, and, due to time dilation, ends up in the modern day, which is only a tiny part of the plot. Most of the plot is he is basically a star-hopping Conan the Barbarian. It's really cool. I mean, the Auric character is heroic, but he's heroic by like 900 AD standards. Okay, like he's a barbarian who's smart, but he's still a barbarian, and he's got an alien spacesuit that basically makes him Superman. And I gotta say, the writing in both the first series and the remake actually gets the idea of Beware the Superman right. The big problem with Beware the Superman is they make him so cartoonishly evil that it's like, okay, he's just a bad guy. He could be any... The evil Superman concept is he could be anybody. He doesn't have to be Superman. He could literally just be Mongol or Kalibak or Darkseid. He could literally be them and it would be the same kind of character. In fact, that's a big problem with Injustice. You know, Superman literally becomes Darkseid as he wants to use the anti-life equation to control all universes so no one can feel pain again. It's like, he's Darkseid, whatever. This Exo Manowar shows that you can still have a virtuous character, but he can do bad things because he doesn't see it as bad. Now, here's the thing, though. That can be abused pretty bad. You can have evil Superman literally creating a wave that controls people's brains, or you can have Arik, who is like, I will fight for my people and only my people. And then, you know, the government comes in, sends their super team, and he kills them all, not because he's evil, but as far as he knows, here's these random costume individuals trying to kill him. You know, you got stuff like that. One of the comics has him rescue some space Visigoths, land in a central park in Romania, which is, I guess, where the Visigoths are from, and take it over. He doesn't kill a bunch of civilians. He doesn't do anything like that, but he just takes it over. He's like, Romania is mine now. And he just has his people farming in the land. Okay, then they start sending in superhero teams after him. He kills them all. They send in some, like, armored regiments. He kills them all. But he's not doing it because he's evil. He's trying to actually do legitimate good. And he does do legitimate good. One thing that's kind of interesting is he goes to this alien planet, which is the home planet of the aliens that kidnapped him, and he just starts killing everybody. And then he ends up working with some aliens that are good, and he overthrows the corrupt government. And that's the thing. Like, he is a hero, but Beware the Superman, he may not be a hero for you, and he might fry a few people trying to figure out what's going on. It's really an interesting, look at the Beware the Superman concept. When you just make Superman evil, it's like, okay, there's the villain. Why doesn't good Superman go kill the bad guy? You know, something like that. Omni-Man is a really good example of Beware the Superman, because Omni-Man is a much more realistic interpretation of the evil Superman. As far as Omni-Man knows, he isn't evil. It's everybody else that is. And so he'll kill anybody that gets in his way. I also have to say that I think at the end of Invincible Season 1, Omni-Man had a psychotic break. He couldn't like reconcile his mission with what he wanted, and basically he snapped and killed a bunch of people. I mean, it makes the most sense to me, which I think is really fascinating. Just saying he evil is pretty boring, but then but actually having, you know, like a psychological reason why somebody does an evil act, that makes more sense. Because nobody in real life is that. No one in real life sees themselves as evil, but they do evil acts because of either psychosis or they have a different viewpoint that leads to great evil, but they're not just, I'm a bad guy. They don't do that. So, Exo Manowar, really good art too. Like, remarkably good art. I recommend seeking out this series. It's sad that it's not more well known than it is. And I eventually do want to try to bring back the OpenGLs. Not sure when that's going to happen, but I have an OpenGL concept for all of you. Batman 89. I may have had a dream where I was like swinging around as Batman 89. But anyway, I was thinking about Batman 89 the other day, and I was thinking to myself, Batman 89 is really one of the best superhero movies ever made because it understands its comic book origins much better than a modern or even a superhero movie at its time. The thing about Batman 89 is it is serious while still maintaining the stylization of the comic book. Joker shows up in a helicopter. We don't know where he got it from. We don't know who's piloting it. We don't care as an audience because we can suspend the disbelief that the Joker has a helicopter. It would make less sense if he didn't have it. The Joker is still serious because he still kills people, he still poisons people, but we expect him to have his gadgets, and we expect Batman to have his gadgets. It's one of the things I've always had a problem with when it comes to people trumpeting the Christopher Nolan series. That series is great. I absolutely love that trilogy. But to say it's objectively better than the superhero movies that came before, I think is kind of missing the point. Christopher Nolan went a different direction. He wanted to do a more grounded Batman, but it was still pretty stylized. You know, that's the thing. Reviewers like to look at the Nolan trilogy as like, this is the real adult superhero, but it did it, but it didn't do it in the way I think it didn't do it in the way that people say they did. You look at Batman Begins, you look at Batman Dark Knight, and you look at Dark Knight Rises. There's a lot of stylization in every one of those films, but it's modern stylization. That's the thing. I mean, the whole thing about Bane taking over a major American city, that's completely stylized. That's something that could not happen. And if you think about that too long, and the stuff that happens in Dark Knight Rises, there's a lot of issues there. And you think about Dark Knight, the Joker really wouldn't have been able to do all the stuff that he did, but it makes sense in a movie context. But you go back to Batman 89. Batman 89, I think, is the purest form of the comic book movie because it feels like a comic book come to life. It has that comic book silliness that I think is really necessary for comic books to really thrive. I think when you make a comic book too serious, it makes it harder to suspend the disbelief. It's like, why do you need these costumed vigilantes going around doing things? You know, like, how can they do this better than a fully well-equipped police force? And how would one guy be able to police an entire city? But with proper stylization, you don't think about it because you don't need to think about it. You know, and it really just comes back to the Joker's helicopter. In a modern context, they would want to explain how he got the helicopter, who's piloting it, and all the rest. But that doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter how he gets the helicopter. It doesn't matter how he gets his gadgets. It doesn't matter how he's able to set up, you know, the balloons filled with Joker gas. None of that matters. He's the villain. Batman has to stop him. And we as an audience, that's what we expect. That's what we want. And that's really all we need. There doesn't need to be massive exposition. That's another thing about Exo Manowar. There's not massive exposition. There's a little bit here and there. There's some flashbacks here and there, but we don't get everything explained to us. And I think that's very important. Exposition is good for wikis. Not necessarily so good in a movie, because in many cases, when I'm watching a movie, I should say, I'm not asking these questions. I'm watching what's happening on screen, and if it's done in the right way, the questions don't even come to me. I don't have to care how this came to be. It doesn't matter. The movie explains it well enough for the story to work. And a lot of this stuff needs to be done with visual storytelling. You don't need to have a giant wall of text explaining everything. I don't need that. I don't care. Show, don't tell. That's the thing I think that has been lost. You know, with Star Wars, we had an entire expanded universe out of 3 movies that followed show, don't tell. We don't need a massive detailed explanation in the movie about where the Jedi came from. When did Obi-Wan become a Padawan? We didn't need any of that. It's like, we get it. He's a Jedi. He's a space wizard. He's got his laser sword, and he's going to duel the villain. We didn't need a giant backstory for that. That it was filled in was good, but in the movie, we did not need that. And so we go back to Batman 89. We don't need any greater explanations of how does the car work. It doesn't matter. How does the Bat utility belt work? It doesn't matter. Having him reach behind his back and pull out a gadget, we don't need any greater explanation. It doesn't matter how many gadgets he pulls from back there, because if you're watching the movie and fully invested in what's going on, that question doesn't even come up. And that's the thing. Seriousness is good. Stylization and seriousness working together makes for a complete package. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to bring back OpenGL just so I can actually have, you know, a co-commentator like saying, well, what about this? What about that? You know, that's something we're going to try to bring back at some point. It's just, proper scheduling has been ridiculous thanks to a certain bug that might be beer related. So, in any event, I am General Lotz, and I'm going to wish you good Exo Manowar and good Batman 89, or whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.